It's Rosh Chanukah, and I'm here at the Kosel. This year, hopefully, will be aired on the 8th of Teves. I just felt it was very important to record the year today, since there is a direct connection, I believe, between Rosh Chanukah, the celebration of Chanukah, and the fast, which comes afterwards on the 10th of Teves. Right, the fast which comes after on the 10th of Teves, which I will speak about in future classes. The fast of the 10th of Teves is actually three fasts rolled into one. The 8th of Teves was the fast over the translation of the Torah into Greek, which we'll speak about today. The 9th of Teves is not completely known. Some say it's the death of Ezra. And the 10th of Teves is the beginning of the destruction of the base of Mikdash. These three fasts, it was too difficult to fast for 3 days straight, even though they could eat at night. And therefore it was rolled into one fast on the 10th of Teves, which I believe is connected to Hanukkah, as we'll speak about in a future class. But right now I want to speak about the 8th of Teves. It's a very, very misunderstood fast. There are some people even today who fast on this day. But the translation of the Torah is seemingly cited in a Gemara in Megillah. The Gemara in Megillah says that Ptolemy took 72 Chachamim, right? 72, which was the number of Chachamim that were in the Sanhedrin, if we include the Rosh Sanhedrin, and there was the Skan Sanhedrin. If we include all of them, that was 72. They put them in a room, and they had the Torah translated into Greek. And there was a mace that happened that day. There were 12 changes, which were imperative to be made. If they hadn't been made, then it would have been a great difficulty for Klal Yisrael, since one of them had to do with the name of his wife, that it shouldn't be a making fun of his wife, and other changes that were made. And miraculously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them Ruach HaKodesh, and they all made the 12 changes in the same time. Starting to rain here at the Kosel, I'm going to open the umbrella here. And this was the translation of the Torah into Greek that happened, and because of that, seemingly because of this translation, the custom started to fast the 8th of Teves. But as one of my listeners or readers, actually to be more accurate, once pointed out to me that this is not true. If you look at the Makor, if you look at the source of the fast of the 8th of Teves, right, which is Masechet Sofrim, the exact quote of Masechet Sofrim is in the first chapter, the 7th Mishnah, right? It says 5 sages wrote the Torah for Ptolemy into Greek. This day was difficult for the Jewish people as the day of making the Egel, the Chet Egel. For because of the incredible death, the Torah cannot be translated properly. So it could not be, as my person wrote to me pointed out, it could not be that this Gemara is the source for the fast of the 8th of Teves. So what's Tutzach? What's going on here? Was the Torah translated by 5 Chachamim, or was it translated by 72 Chachamim? And the answer is as follows. And I believe this is the answer. This is the answer that I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that it is the only answer, but it's definitely an answer. As follows. The Torah was originally translated into Greek. That was into the Greek language. And in fact, the only language that you're allowed to write a Sefer Torah is Yafis Elokim Yafis Vishkan B'Olei Shem. Greek is a beautiful language. Right? They stopped teaching in a public school. You know, my grandmother learned it actually Latin, not Greek, but they stopped. It's not so common to be learned today. But the halach is that the only language that a Sefer Torah can be written in is in Greek. Right? And it's very difficult. I once wrote a tshuva on this, to write a Sefer Torah in Greek, because it has to be accurate grammatically, and it's not so easy. Most people are not so familiar with Greek grammar in these days. So it was originally translated. The Torah was originally translated from the Hebrew language into the Greek language, right? Into the Greek language. But the Greeks were not totally happy with this, because they thought that maybe something was lost in the translation, which is in fact the reason that it's a fast day. It's impossible to grasp the infinite depth of the Torah in another language except for Lashon HaKodesh. And the Targum also was given in Har Sinai. It was lost and later reinstated by Onkelos. But the infinite beauty of the Torah, that is the Shashua, it's the plaything of the Jewish people, can only be in Hebrew. And therefore, when the Torah was translated into Greek, it was a day of mourning for the Jewish people. So the point is like this. What was this 72 Chachamim that got together, right? Connected the Sanhedrin, parallel to the Sanhedrin, 72 sages that got together. This was a later um, event, which told me, right? Told me, and this is actually the next Mishnah, is at Sofrim, 1:8, yeah? Told me was doubtful if they had really translated accurately. He was afraid that maybe they had made some changes in it. Yeah, so he had them transliterate the Torah, right, from Hebrew into Greek. In other words, write it in Hebrew in Greek letters, so he could also read it and then check up if everything was accurate. And in this situation, the miracle happened that spoke about in the Gemara and Megillah. Right, that's the Gemara and Megillah. If you want to check it up, it's on. It is on. Where is it? It is. It is. Oh, 9a. Yeah, 9a. Tes Amud Aleph. So he wanted to check up that it was completely accurate, so he asked him to transliterate it into Greek, right, from Hebrew into Greek. The original one was into the Greek language, and the second was into the Greek letters, right, into Greek letters. He had transliterated, and in this case, the 72 Chachamim miraculously made changes, and they changed the words um, that were it's potentially insulting and potentially problematic. And this was a great miracle that happened for the Jewish people. But all in all, and one of the changes actually was a 13th change they made because Ptolemy's wife's name was Arnevet, yeah, and the um, had the Torah wrote that the word Arnevet in the Torah as one of the non-kosher animals, that would have been a big insult to Ptolemy's wife. Right? So they changed it to Tigrig. That was the 13th change. 13 change. All in all, there were 13 changes made to the Torah, and in order that they shouldn't insult Ptolemy's wife. So it's interesting to know, by the way, the Maharsha points out that the four non-kosher animals, yeah, that have one sign of kashrus, not two, one sign of kashrus, which are considered extra non-kosher because they're trying to fool us that they have one kosher sign, right? So each one of the four corresponds to one of the four guluses, one of the four diasporas of the Jewish people, and the one which corresponds to Greece is the rabbit, yeah, the arnevet. And so it's interesting to note that the Greeks are compared to a rabbit, right? And the rabbit is the animal which I remember growing up and my parents took us to Canada and other places, that the rabbit eats its own excrement, right? So despite the beauty of the Greek people, their outer finesse, but the rabbit has a vile practice of eating its own excrement. And the Greeks, despite their exterior finesse and idolatry, were very crude in their practical lives. As we know the story with Aristo, he was found once in a situation of immorality, and they asked him, "How can you do this?" He said, "That was Aristo, the philosopher. This is Aristo, the man. Therefore, the rabbit is a apropos representative of the Greek people. In any event, the the what's it called? In any event, this is the reconciliation between the Masechet Sofrim. The first translation was 5 elders into Greek, into a Greek language, and the second translation was 72 elders into the Greek letters, the Hebrew words in Greek letters. So Ptolemy could check it up and make sure that they had accurately translated the Torah. And this is why the fast was initially instated, right, on the 8th of Teves, and we will explain more what the connection is to Hanukkah in upcoming classes. Amen. Kain Tiei Ratzon.